I was still hooked up to a morphine drip 48 hours after surgery when my father walked into my hospital room with my brother and announced he was signing the family company over to him. He didn't ask if I was strong enough to hear it. He didn't ask if I was still technically the one running it. He just needed a witness, and I happened to be lying right there. If you've ever been overlooked at the exact moment you were the most vulnerable, hit subscribe because this story is for you. Drop a comment telling me what time it is where you're watching from. Now, let me tell you how I ended up in that hospital bed in the first place and what my father didn't know I'd already done 6 months before he ever set foot in that room. My name is Elena Cortez. I'm 34, and for 11 years, I've been the Vice President of Operations at Cortez Precision Manufacturing, a company my grandfather started in a garage, and my father grew into a business worth just over $2.3 million. I didn't inherit my position. I earned it, starting on the factory floor at 19, learning every machine before I ever touched a spreadsheet, working my way up while my younger brother, Marcus, studied marketing at a school our father paid full tuition for, and then came home to figure out his path for the better part of a decade. I'd had a routine gallbladder surgery, the kind that's supposed to keep you in the hospital for 1 night, maybe 2. A complication during the procedure turned 1 night into 5. I remember the fluorescent lights, the itch of the IV line, the particular exhaustion of being both in pain and completely powerless over your own schedule. I remember my father walking in on day 2, not with flowers, but with a manila folder, right there next to the water pitcher. My father, Antonio Cortez, has always measured love in a strange currency, 1 part pride, 1 part control. When I was promoted to VP 5 years ago, he told the local paper his daughter had learned the family business, never once using my title, as though I'd absorbed the knowledge through osmosis rather than 11 years of 16-hour days. When Marcus came back from 3 failed business ventures, each funded by my father, each ending the same way, Antonio called it finding himself. When I closed our biggest client contract in company history 2 years ago, a partnership with a regional aerospace supplier worth $400,000 a year, my father's response was, "Good, that'll help when your brother eventually takes over." I'd heard some version of that sentence a decade. Your brother will eventually take over. Not a question, a fact, stated the way you'd state the weather. Immovable, already decided, regardless of who actually built the forecast. I used to argue it. Eventually, I stopped, mostly because arguing with my father was like negotiating with a door that had already been locked before you arrived. What he didn't know, what nobody knew, except my lawyer and my accountant, was that 18 months earlier, my grandfather, before he passed, had quietly restructured a portion of his shares into a trust with my name on it. Not a controlling stake, not yet, but enough that any transfer of full ownership required my signature too. My grandfather had watched the same pattern my whole life. He'd just never said anything about it until it was already too late for my father to undo. On day 2 of my hospital stay, still groggy from a second round of anesthesia after an infection scare, I woke to my father's voice and Marcus standing beside him, both looking down at me like I was a formality to get through. "Elena, honey, I'm glad you're awake," my father said, setting the folder on my tray table right next to the water pitcher. "I want to get this handled while we're all together. I'm transferring full operational control of Cortez Precision to Marcus, effective this quarter." He said it the way you'd announce a change in restaurant reservations. Simple, final. I remember trying to sit up, the pull of the IV in my arm, my voice coming out thinner than I wanted it to. "Dad, I'm still recovering from surgery. Can we talk about this when I'm not on painkillers?" He patted my hand, actually patted it, like I was a child asking to stay up past bedtime. "There's nothing to discuss, sweetheart. Marcus is ready. It's time." Marcus wouldn't meet my eyes. I don't think even then he fully believed he was ready either, but he signed where my father pointed, in the chair beside my hospital bed, while I lay there in a paper gown, unable to stand, watching 11 years of my life get handed to someone else with a ballpoint pen. "I need you to witness this," my father said, sliding the folder toward me. "Just your signature as a family witness, nothing binding." I looked at the document, and that's when I noticed the line at the bottom, the one my father either didn't know about or was hoping I was too sedated to catch. A line requiring co-signature from all Class B shareholders for any full ownership transfer. My grandfather's trust, my name. I didn't say anything that day. I signed the witness line exactly as asked and let my father leave the room satisfied. I spent the next 3 days in that hospital bed doing the only thing I had the energy to do, calling my lawyer every time the nurses left the room, quietly confirming what I already suspected. The transfer my father had drawn up was legally incomplete without my co-signature as trustee. He'd built an entire ceremony, an entire announcement around a document that couldn't actually take effect. I could have told him immediately. Some small, tired part of me wanted to watch his face fall the way mine had fallen days earlier. But I'd learned something from watching my grandfather build this company from nothing. You don't win by matching someone's cruelty. You win by being right, quietly, and letting them discover it in front of the people whose opinion matters most to them. I was discharged on a Friday. I asked my father and Marcus to meet me at the company offices the following Monday morning in the main conference room, the one with the wall of photos tracing 3 generations of Cortez family history. I told them it was to formally welcome Marcus into his new role. That part, at least, wasn't a lie. Monday morning, I walked into that conference room, still moving carefully, still tender from surgery, and found my father, Marcus, and, at my request, our family's longtime accountant, Rosa, who had worked with my grandfather for 30 years and never once, in all that time, been anything but honest with any of us. My father looked pleased with himself. Marcus looked nervous in a way that told me some part of him already sensed something was wrong. Before we welcome Marcus officially, I said, sliding a folder of my own across the table, I want to walk through the ownership transfer paperwork from Friday because there's an issue with it. My father's smile faltered. Grandpa restructured his shares 18 months before he passed. A portion went into a trust, my trust. It requires co-signature from all Class B shareholders for any full ownership transfer to be valid. I looked at Rosa. She nodded, confirming it for the room, her voice steady. The paperwork from Friday isn't binding. Legally, right now, nothing has changed. I'm still VP of Operations. Marcus's transfer hasn't taken effect. My father's face went through several stages: disbelief, anger, and finally something I'd genuinely never seen on him before: uncertainty. "Your grandfather did this behind my back?" he said. "Your grandfather watched the same 11 years I did, Dad. He just didn't wait until I was in a hospital bed to say something about it." The room sat in silence for a long moment. Marcus, to his credit, was the first to speak. "Dad, I need to say something," he said, and his voice shook a little. "I signed that paper in a hospital room because you told me to. I don't actually know if I'm ready for this. I've never run anything longer than 8 months without it falling apart. I think some part of me has been waiting for you to notice that, and you never have." It was the most honest thing I'd heard my brother say in years. My father sat down heavily in his chair, the folder from Friday still open in front of him, suddenly looking every one of his 68 years. "I always thought I was protecting this family's legacy," he said. "I think I was just protecting the version of it I'd already decided on before either of you had a say." We didn't resolve everything in that conference room, but we made a decision that day that actually held. Marcus would spend a year shadowing me in operations, learning the parts of the business he'd never bothered to learn before any ownership conversation happened again. My father agreed, mostly because Rosa quietly reminded him that the trust gave me the legal standing to insist on it regardless of whether he agreed. It wasn't a threat, it was just a fact, the same kind of fact he'd used against me for years, finally sitting on my side of the table. 6 months later, Marcus and I run the floor together most days. He's better at parts of it than I expected, worse at others, and for the first time in either of our lives, our father actually watches both of us work instead of deciding in advance who deserves to be. Last month at a family dinner, he said something to me he'd never said before. "You built something in that hospital room I didn't see coming.
I should have asked you what you wanted instead of telling you what I'd already decided. It wasn't an apology exactly, but it was closer than I'd ever gotten. I think about that hospital room more than I'd like to, about how easy it is for the people who are supposed to protect you instead protect only the story they've already written about you. My grandfather taught me something without ever saying it directly. Sometimes the quietest protection you can give someone is simply making sure the paperwork tells the truth, even when nobody's ready to hear it yet. Has someone ever tried to make a major decision about your life while you were too weak, too tired, or too overlooked to fight back in the moment? Tell me in the comments. I read every one, and if this story reminded you of your family's paperwork, share it with someone who needs to hear that quiet, patient truth still counts as power. Until next time, this is Elena, reminding you that legacy isn't something anyone else gets to sign for you.